Hi, I'm just reading a follow-up on this case in Bristol, the removal of the Edward Colston statue, which of course was one of the focal points of last month's unrest. Um, and it's an interesting story because the statue has now been replaced unofficially by a Black Lives Matter protester. I'll read out a bit of the report from LBC and then yeah, share some of my thoughts on this because I think it's ridiculous. The report's by Asher McShane. A sculpture of a Black Lives Matter protester has been put up on the plinth in Bristol where the statue of slave trader Edward Colston used to stand. So if you recall, this was the statue that was forcibly removed and dumped into Bristol Harbour. Artist Mark Quinn created the black and resin steel piece of protester Jen Reid, who was photographed standing on the empty plinth after the Colston statue was toppled. The sculpture, entitled "A Surge of Power, Jen Reid" in brackets, was erected in the early hours of today by the artist team without the knowledge of Bristol City Council. That's a very important point, and I'll come back to that. Mayor Marvin Rees previously said any decision on how the plinth should be used would be decided democratically. Nothing democratic about what this team has done. After the sculpture was installed, Mrs. Reid stood in front of it with her fist in the air. "It's just incredible," she told The Guardian. "This is going to continue the conversation. I can't see it coming down in a hurry." Marvin Rees, Mayor of Bristol, said, "My relentless commitment is to build a city for all Bristolians with all our differences. To this end, the future of the plinth and what is installed on it must be decided by the people of Bristol. This will be critical to building a city that's home to those who are elated at that statue being pulled down, those who sympathise with its removal but are dismayed at how it happened, and those who feel that its removal they've lost a piece of Bristol they know and therefore themselves." I think, to be fair to the mayor, it sounds like he's trying to be as diplomatic as possible. Um, but, this just shows the sheer arrogance of Black Lives Matter. This is not an empowering thing. This is sheer egoism. I mean, Jen Reid, who does she think she is? This woman is so egotistical that she is standing in front of her own statue. And this isn't some honor that the city has given her and she's just being polite and, this is something that, along with this artist Mark Quinn, she has engineered. You could be absolutely sure that she will have been part of this idea. And for her to say it continues the conversation, what, so we can all grovel to you, Jen Reid? I mean, to put it bluntly, what the hell has she done to deserve this accolade? By standing on the empty plinth? By being part of the mob that tore a statue down? What has she done to benefit the city of Bristol to deserve this? Now, obviously, it's designed, it's new statue, so it can't be brought down. But there's a few things that are striking here. I think the fact that they were scared to put this to public vote says something. If she is so confident that this is some sort of progressive symbolism, then why are they frightened of taking up the marriage gesture of putting it to public consultation? Why do it in the middle of the night? Even if this statue is not removed, I think it will probably be subject to vandalism, and I have to say, I'm not overly sympathetic. And then, of course, they'll whine about racism. But firstly, the statue is depicting a black power salute. Now, that's racially charged. Okay? This isn't just depicting a black woman, it's depicting black power, which is a sectarian symbol. Um, the statue looks to be high quality. It's purely in artistic terms. It's impressive. It's clearly there's skill involved in that. So I assume that it's quite physically tough. The material is tough. That was a deliberate decision. But this is nothing short of anarchy. Basically, we don't like this. We'll forcibly remove this. We'll put this here instead. And whether you like it or not, we don't care. You have to like it. This is imposing something on the city of Bristol that the people didn't ask for. I can't get over the egoism involved in this. Jen Reid, I mean, does she think she's Martin Luther King? Does she think she's Malcolm X? Who is she? I've never heard of her. It's not even like she's some major community leader. She's just a random rioter, as far as I'm concerned. And yes, I do say rioter because that was a riotous act. You know, what happened at Bristol Harbour was a riotous act. Forcibly removing a statue is a riotous act. It might not be a riot in the sense of burning cars and smashing up shops, but it is a riotous act because it's unlawful. Um, so I hope Bristolians don't just accept this. I hope they say, well, wait a second, you haven't asked us, you haven't put this to public vote. Um, I think Mark Quinn should be charged with whatever the infraction is. You know, I don't know, failing to seek planning permission or whatever the formal sanction would be. But it's just where is this going? Are we going to see this happening in other cities now? So I just find it very egotistical. The statue may not be physically removed, but if it gets vandalized, I really can't say I'm overly sympathetic. And I think it's a possibility because there has been reprisal attacks. Um, and then, of course, whoever, vandalizes this new statue will be denounced as a white supremacist hater. Well, maybe they're just angry about the fact you have these egotistical anarchists doing what they want. This will further the conversation. No, Jen Reid, it won't further the conversation, stoking your ego. It will just further divisions. Who do you think you are? I mean, how self-righteous must you be? How much do you love yourself? But it's just really a sign of these crazy times. Someone suggested actually on the conversation thread, this was put on another debate forum, that an appropriate statue might be George Orwell, you know? It's and I knew where they were coming with that. I must admit, when I saw this, I thought it was some PC decision taken by the council. But this wasn't sanctioned. It was done in the middle of the night, like cards, because they didn't want to put this to public consultation. And it's just crazy. As far as I'm concerned, Black Lives Matter is a racist organization, and I will call them that until they denounce Yusra Kogali and other racists in their midst. If they can't do that, I'm calling them a racist organization. I think if you ask a member of the public, do Black Lives Matter? 99% of people say, of course they do. If you ask them about the movement, I reckon, and actually there's already indication of this, the support would massively drop. There has been an online poll going around, and to what extent it actually aligns with Black Lives Matter positions or not, I don't know. It certainly purports to do so, and the overwhelming consensus, including from a lot of people that thought they were sympathetic. And I'm talking about pretty left-wing people who, would be very on top of these things when they actually look at the questions. They find that they're only 26% in favor of Black Lives Matter as a movement, 30%. Some of the higher ones get up to 40%. But it's because of of the extreme ideas like abolishing prison, defunding the police, these sort of reckless ideas that, that's what puts people off. So there might be a lot of people out there who are genuinely sympathetic to the movement and they might disagree with what I'm saying, but they find that they just can't align themselves with some of those positions. Um, but I am sick and tired of Black Lives Matter being given a free ride. They whine about institutional racism, but they've had absolutely a free ride over the past month. They've basically done whatever they wanted with little or no consequences. Um, I do think arrests need to be made. I think where there is acts of vandalism, they need to be fined. Um, at the time, the local police force in Bristol said they made the decision to stand back because they didn't want to escalate tensions. Apparently, subsequently, some arrests have been made. But, by the way, the statue of Colston apparently is going to be put in the museum along with Black Lives Matter placards. Maybe that's the right approach, but um, it's the act of anarchism, I think, that bothers a lot of people. Even people who felt the statue was inappropriate weren't happy with the way that was done. There is an absolutely cultural revolution aspect going on here, but tearing down the old ways. I just can't get over how egotistical this woman is. I mean, I can't think of any other example, I could be wrong, where there has been a piece of art directly endorsed by the subject and the subject then poses in front of it. I mean, with publicly commissioned works of art, you'll have an artist who's commissioned to do the work of a public figure, say a prime minister or a monarch or a singer or whoever, and probably the subject might be consulted or at least told, okay, this piece of artwork is going to be done to honor you, and can can you come up to the opening or something? But when the Queen gets her portrait painted, it's not like she sort of gives personal approval to the final work, because if you look, there's been a lot of portraits of the Queen, and some of them are not very flattering. I know apparently she has disliked some of them, but she's a public figure and she can't just ban them because she doesn't like them. Um, there was one, I think it was the artist Francis Bacon. I could, don't quote me on that, I may be wrong, but one of those portraits was quite unflattering. It made her look quite grumpy and quite, it wasn't a very flattering portrait. And, that's in the public domain. She couldn't just ban it because it didn't make her look good. My point is, that's the usual way it goes. Public figures may sit for the portrait, or they may pose for a photograph with their statue. But this is the first example I can think of where the subject has actively been involved in the creation of her statue. It's so egotistical. It's the sort of thing dictators do, get likenesses of themselves and personality cults. And I suspect the vast majority of people around the country have no idea who Jen Reid is. I wonder how many Bristolians know who she is. She is from Bristol, but what's she done for the city other than being involved in a riotous act and standing on the plinth? I mean, has she done any great things for the children of Bristol? Has she, you know, done any sort of great benevolent deed? Has she opened up some sort of foundations greatly benefiting the people of Bristol or anything like that? If she has, then there might be a case for her to be honoured. But here's the thing, they've done it without permission. So that to me suggests they actually know that they wouldn't have wider support. But they're saying we'll just do it anyway. Hell with the public, you know. They're not a democratic movement. They are, in my view, a racist movement, and I look forward to a time when the media finally starts doing its job. I mean, the LBC report had this really sentimental music playing in the background, very sappy, sort of harmonious music, like, oh, look how progressive this is. Pathetic. I've noticed that, LBC had a good balance of right and left opinions, but recently they have been virtue signaling to Black Lives Matter in an utterly pathetic way. I'm not talking about their individual journalists, but LBC as a network has been doing that, and it's very noticeable, and in my view, very pathetic. If you're from Bristol, I'd like to know your point of view. It may be that you support this. Bristol's a big city, and I mean it's one of our bigger cities, and I do not believe that the majority of Bristolians would be okay with a statue being put up in the middle of the night without even being consulted. I mean, what does that say? It says that the artist and his team and the subject don't have the confidence that they'll get wider support. So they're just doing what they want. I do hope they get fined for not getting planning permission. And if it gets vandalized, I'm not saying people should vandalize it, but honestly, I'm not going to cry over that. And I wouldn't even see it as a racist act. I would see it as people saying, well, we don't like your arrogance.